I don't know what happened in the last 25 years, but it takes forever to make games. And even if it takes 6 up to 8 years to make a game, it still comes out shit. This phenomenon in the gaming industry is just getting worse. And I'm talking about big gaming studios, not the indie scene. The indie scene is doing fine because it is always one or two guys or a small team who just sit in their room and code and make whatever they want. And somehow it takes less than 4 years to release banger after banger. But AAA companies with 500 plus employees can't even make one decent game in 6-8 years of development. Let's look at the examples. Skull and Bones by Ubisoft. 11 years in development, started in 2013, released in 2024. Ubisoft's own CEO called it quadruple A game to justify the $70 price tag. It flopped. Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League by Rocksteady. Around 7 years in development, released February 2024. Rocksteady were the people who made the Batman Arkham series, one of the most beloved superhero game trilogies ever made. They were told to make a live service shooter instead. It was dead within months. Anthem by BioWare. Started development in 2012. Released 2019. 7 years. BioWare were the studio behind Mass Effect and Dragon Age. Anthem was supposed to be their next big thing. It launched broken, the community abandoned it, and the servers were finally shut down in January 2026. And how can we not mention Concord? The biggest flop of all the flops. Sony Farwalk Studios, 8 years in development, released August 2024. It sold an estimated 25,000 copies only. 2 weeks after launch, Sony pulled it offline, refunded everyone, and shut down the entire studio. 8 years of work gone in 2 weeks. That's not just a flop, that's a historic failure. Now let's look at the indie scene. Balatro, developed by a single person called Local Thunk. Over 2.5 years. Released February 2024. At the 2024 Game Awards, it won 3 awards. Best Independent Game, Best Debut Indie Game, and the Best Mobile Game. It was nominated for a Game of the Year and has sold over 5 million copies. One person, 2.5 years. Palworld. Developed by a Pocket Pair, a small team that started with just 4 developers and grew over a 3-year development period. Released January 2024 in early access. Peaked at over 2.1 million concurrent players on Steam, the highest of any paid game in Steam history at the time. Sea of Stars, a turn-based RPG crowdfunded and developed over several years of Sabotage Studio, received massive critical acclaim as a nostalgic throwback. Dredge, a fishing adventure with dark Lovecraftian themes, tight and polished, developed in a few years by a small team. Cult of the Lamb, developed by a massive monster in roughly 3 years, became a huge success through its unique concept and great marketing. Quite a big difference between indie and AAA. Small teams, focused vision, shorter development, better results. It makes you wonder what the hell is going on at the big studios. And the answer is simpler than you think. Check a few interviews given by CEOs at any major gaming company and you'll quickly realize that most of them don't care about games at all. For example, Bobby Kotick ran Activision Blizzard for 30 years and openly said he wasn't a gamer. Andrew Wilson at EA has given interviews that have basically become memes in the gaming community. These are the people making the final calls on what gets made, what gets cut, and when something ships. The reason these companies haven't gone bankrupt despite all of this is also pretty simple. Massive back catalogs and legacy IPs that prints money regardless of what new games they release. Ubisoft still makes millions from old Assassin's Creed games going on sale. EA prints money from FIFA Ultimate Team every year regardless of how bad the game is. That's the safety net that lets them keep making bad decisions. But that's changing. Ubisoft's share price has collapsed. Concord shut down after 2 weeks. Sony closed the entire studio and wrote off hundreds of millions, and even Marathon, Bungie's first new franchise in over a decade, lost Sony $765 million in write-downs this year alone, with the game sitting at around 10 to 15,000 concurrent players on Steam 2 months after launch. Bungie is now reportedly facing layoffs of 40 up to 50% of its staff, with some insiders questioning whether the studio survives at all. The same studio that made Halo. The people making the decisions have no real connection to the people playing the games. And until that changes, don't expect the games to get better or the development times to get shorter. And there's something else happening that I think is just as important. Gamers are finally saying no. For years people would buy whatever was put in front of them. Day one, full price, no questions. AAA studios could release something half finished and still make their money back because the audience has showed up anyway. That's changing. And it's not just because the games got worse, it's basically everything around it. The world is kind of a mess right now. The economy is bad, people have less money to spend. And when a new game costs 70, 80, sometimes 90 plus bucks, with the addition they push hardest, people start doing the math. Is this actually worth it? Is this going to be another skull and bones situation where I spend 70 bucks and know within the first hour that I've been robbed? And more the answer is no. Players are skipping launches, waiting for sales, watching streamers first, just not bothering. The player counts are speaking for themselves. Concord, Marathon, Suicide Squad. Nobody showed up, nobody was willing to give them the benefit of the doubt anymore. There's also just a general exhaustion with being treated like a wallet with a controller. Live service models, battle passes, 70 base game plus a season pass, plus cosmetic shop, plus deluxe edition, yada yada yada. Like, at some point people just disconnect entirely. The studios that are winning right now are the ones that respect the player's time and money. Balatro was 15 bucks, World was 30 bucks in the early access. They delivered and people rewarded them for it. AAA studios are starting to feel that shift. And honestly, good. It's about time. And that's basically it. AAA gaming has a serious problem and everyone can see it except the people at the top who are supposed to fix it. Meanwhile, a guy sitting alone in his room making a poker card game is winning Game of the Year awards. Maybe things will change. The losses are piling up, studios are closing, the players are voting with their wallets more than ever. But until the people running these companies actually give a damn about making good games, don't hold your breath. Anyway, what was the worst game you have played recently? Which AAA game made you feel like your time was completely wasted? Drop it in the comments. As always, thanks for watching and see you soon.